The film opens on a vibrant Brazilian island where U.S. Marine Louis Stevens is stationed. Drawn by the rhythmic beats of local music, he joins his friends in a lively capoeira session, the traditional Brazilian martial art that blends dance, acrobatics, and combat. As the celebration continues, Louis receives orders to return home to Miami. With a heartfelt farewell to his friend Silva, he prepares to leave Brazil behind. Before Louis departs, Silva gifts him a berimbau, a traditional capoeira instrument, as a keepsake of their friendship. Upon returning to his hometown of Miami, Louis visits his old school, Lincoln High. There he reunites with his former teacher and friend, Mr. Kerrigan, who expresses his frustration over the students' unruly behavior and lack of discipline. Kerrigan explains that since Louis left, the school has fallen into chaos. Violence and gang activity now dominate the halls, leading to a sharp decline in student performance. During their lunch break, Louis witnesses a gang led by the notorious Anderson assaulting a student named Chop, accusing him of failing to sell their illicit products. The gang orders Chop to pick up the scattered goods from the ground, but Louis steps in, demanding they leave the boy alone. The thug refuses, warning Louis to stay out of their family business. When Anderson orders his men to attack, a fierce fight erupts. Louis swiftly counters with agile rolls and powerful roundhouse kicks, stunning the crowd as students erupt in cheers at the unexpected display of skill. Drawing on his capoeira training, Louis uses a series of crescent kicks, front strikes, and a powerful axe kick to subdue the gang, finally knocking Anderson to the ground. Impressed by his remarkable skill, Kerrigan praises Louis, noting that he has managed to capture the students' attention, something the teachers have been unable to achieve for the past 5 years. At a faculty meeting, Kerrigan persuades Principal Cochran to introduce capoeira as part of a special gym program aimed at rehabilitating the school's 12 most troubled students. He believes the discipline, respect, and unity taught through the art could help steer them away from violence and toward redemption. However, not everyone supports the idea. Teacher Hector openly opposes the plan, arguing that introducing a combat-based discipline to already violent students is reckless, especially under the guidance of someone who has just returned from military service in Latin America. As Louis leaves the meeting, teacher Diana, his former classmate and one-time girlfriend, steps in to defend him, pleading with the principal to give Louis a chance to help the troubled students. After some hesitation, the principal finally agrees. That evening, Louis and Kerrigan inspect an old, abandoned school building to serve as their new training gym. Together, they begin cleaning and restoring the place, determined to make it functional and welcoming for the students.
The next day, 12 students are brought in to begin their capoeira training. Louis and Kerrigan review their files, each containing a detailed record of the students' troubled pasts. Once inside, Mr. Kerrigan introduces Louis as a former Lincoln High graduate and ex-Green Beret, earning the group's wary attention as their unconventional journey begins. Louis asks Donovan to turn up the music, explaining that every capoeira session begins with rhythm. It is the heartbeat of the art. He plays a training tape he recorded in Brazil, filling the room with the traditional sounds of the berimbau. However, one of the students, Ricardo, quickly grows restless and attempts to turn off the music, showing his defiance toward the new program. Louis quickly intercepts Ricardo, blocking his attempt to stop the music. Enraged, Ricardo pulls out a knife and lunges at him. Louis calmly evades every strike, disarming the student without throwing a single punch. After restoring order, he ends the class for the day. Kerrigan later warns him that Ricardo is the cousin of Silverio, a powerful crime lord who controls one of the city's most dangerous gangs. Later, Donovan borrows the capoeira training tape. The next morning, Louis wakes to the sound of music and discovers that Donovan has creatively mixed the capoeira rhythms with modern tracks, giving it a fresh, energetic feel. Inspired, the students gather at the park for another day of training. However, tensions flare when a fight breaks out between Eddie and Chop. Louis intervenes, dismissing the rest of the class and asking Chop to stay behind. That evening, he begins teaching Chop the fundamental techniques of capoeira, demonstrating graceful side kicks and rhythm-based movements as Kerrigan looks on, impressed. The next morning, Luis decides to test Chop's progress by letting him face Eddie in a friendly match. Using his newly learned capoeira techniques, Chop skillfully defeats Eddie with ease. Energized by his success, Luis and Chop begin demonstrating their capoeira dance moves in front of the other students. Captivated by the rhythm and fluidity, the rest of the class gradually joins in. The following day, Luis introduces them to capoeira instruments, and for the first time, the students seem genuinely engaged and happy to learn. Feeling isolated and resentful, Ricardo grows angry and tells Luis that capoeira runs in his blood, that he has nothing to learn from an outsider like him. Storming out of class, he vows never to return. Later that night, while Ricardo is playing basketball with his friends, Luis approaches him, asking why he walked out. Ricardo dismissively replies that he wants nothing to do with the capoeira program. As his friends surround Luis, Ricardo warns him to back off, boasting about his cousin Silverio, a feared and respected gang leader who runs the neighborhood and doesn't take kindly to interference. As the confrontation continues, Silverio arrives with his gang, instantly shifting the tension in the air. Luis calmly tells Ricardo to meet him in class the next day, but Silverio's men take offense, sparking a violent brawl. Using his capoeira skills, Luis fends off the entire gang with fluid, dance-like movements that leave everyone stunned. Impressed, Silverio approaches Luis, revealing that he's heard of the teacher who brings capoeira to the school. He offers Luis a lucrative deal to train his gang, but Luis refuses, dismissing both the offer and the crime lord's arrogance. Enraged by Luis's refusal, Silverio challenges him to prove his capoeira skills in a real fight. As his gang surrounds them, chanting capoeira songs and clapping to the rhythm, the two men face off in a fierce duel. Silverio moves with surprising speed and agility, launching high jumps and powerful side kicks. The momentum shifts in his favor, and with a devastating back kick, he sends Luis crashing to the ground, leaving him dazed and defeated. Standing over his fallen opponent, Silverio warns Luis to stay away from his cousin, declaring Ricardo unworthy of his training. Later that night, bruised and exhausted, Luis returns home and calls Diana. She tends to his wounds, scolding him for confronting Silverio's men alone. As they talk, Luis begins showing her some basic capoeira movements and bending techniques. The lesson soon turns personal, rekindling the bond and affection they once shared. The next morning, Ricardo unexpectedly returns to the group, signaling a turning point in his attitude. Gradually, the entire class begins to show signs of transformation. The once troubled teens now focused, disciplined, and united through capoeira. Principal Cochran visits the training session and is astonished by the progress of students once deemed hopeless. Impressed, he proposes expanding the capoeira program to other schools across the city. The following day, the media arrives to film the students' impressive demonstrations, capturing their newfound spirit and skill on camera. Soon after, the students embark on a field trip, their bus filled with laughter and the lively rhythm of capoeira music. When they arrive at the campsite, however, the group grows uneasy about spending the night in the forest. Reluctant to face the wilderness, they choose to sleep inside the bus, leaving Luis to camp outside alone under the stars. When morning comes, the students are awed by the breathtaking beauty of the beach bathed in sunlight. Training begins amid the cool ocean breeze, their synchronized movements blending grace and strength. Diana captures the moment on camera as the students leap, roll, and practice capoeira in perfect rhythm. Later that day, Luis sits down with Ricardo, who opens up about the hardships he endures under his cousin Silverio's control. The next day at school, tragedy strikes. The gym is found engulfed in flames, and Donovan perishes in the arson attack. The shocking event leads to Luis's expulsion and the immediate shutdown of the capoeira program. That night, Ricardo visits Luis in secret, warning him that Silverio is hunting him down and urging him to leave Miami before it's too late. But Luis refuses, insisting that he won't abandon his home or the students who have come to depend on him. Determined to fight back, Lewis storms Silverio's warehouse, taking on dozens of his men single-handedly. A brutal, fast-paced battle erupts as Lewis unleashes his full mastery of capoeira, defeating every opponent with precision and agility. After the fight, he sets fire to Silverio's money shipment, leaving the crime lord's operation in chaos. Moments later, Silverio arrives at the burning warehouse with his crew. Enraged, he orders his men to scour the entire neighborhood and bring Lewis to him alive, so he can finish him once and for all. A citywide manhunt begins as Lewis defends himself against Silverio's men, drawing on his Marine training to outmaneuver and disarm them. Despite his efforts, the gang eventually surrounds and overpowers him, knocking him unconscious with a blow to the head. As they transport him to Silverio's hideout, the convoy is ambushed by Lewis's students, led by Ricardo, who demand his release. Just as a violent clash is about to erupt, Silverio appears and orders his men to stand down. Ricardo steps forward to challenge him, but Lewis intervenes, insisting that Silverio face him instead. He proposes a deal. If he wins, the students must be set free. The final showdown begins as both sides gather around, cheering and chanting. The clash is intense. Swords flash and fists fly. Silverio lands a heavy kick, knocking Lewis to the ground, but Lewis counters with a swift, acrobatic move that sends his opponent sprawling. Silverio recovers, grabbing Lewis in a chokehold, tightening his grip. Just then, the students begin singing their capoeira class song, their rhythmic chants filling the air and reigniting Lewis's spirit. Drawing strength from their voices, he breaks free and unleashes a flurry of rapid kicks, driving Silverio to his knees. With one final, powerful strike, Lewis knocks him unconscious as the students erupt in jubilation, celebrating their victory. Moments later, the police arrive at the scene, sending Silverio's gang scattering to avoid arrest. Ricardo steps forward and confesses that Silverio was behind the school fire that claimed Donovan's life. The story then transitions to a brighter day, graduation. The once troubled students now stand proudly in their caps and gowns as Principal Cochran announces a special capoeira performance. Lewis takes the stage alongside his Brazilian friends, showcasing the art that transformed their lives. The crowd erupts in applause, celebrating not just their skill, but their redemption. Thanks for watching.